Okay.
Okay. So here is our agenda today. It's the same, sorry for that. Okay. It's the same as last time. If there are some updates from policy, as MDG is not
There
here.
was last minute agenda change. Sorry, George, I forgot to
Okay.
give it to you. So there's nothing new from any of the working groups this week. The only thing is Sebastian's wanting, because he's about to become busy, wants to I'll let you explain it, Sebastian.
Okay.
Should I start with that, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
All right. Okay. Thanks for then having it this week. I had two things, but yeah, the first one being one of my actually fellow colleagues at IOG, Daniel Firth, has expressed his interest in being involved in open source committee work. He's a core developer on Hydra as well. So. And he has a bit less meetings than me, so he's much more motivated and can put up a bit more work than I did. So I would, think about nominating him instead of me, or kind of just rotating. Not sure yet how. I think your idea, Adam, right, has not been yet fully ratified, but I think you should be rotating anyways. So it's more of a yielding here, maybe there. And I would want to bring him into this working committee here. And that's basically my agenda point, how that would work. And if you want, just do it.
We could do it just like we did with Nick. All in favor say A. And then any objections to Daniel replacing Sebastian? Or anyone in favor of just getting rid of Sebastian? Just kidding.
No worries. I mean, I kind of also related is that I will be working on Intersect side a bit more and kind of establishing a Hydra working group anyways, which is related to kind of also working with the technical steering committee and the open source committee, but more on topic. So I would not be completely out of the picture anyways. So Christian mentioned that I can't get rid of him anyways, so I can't escape him.
Well, and to help clarify too, because I think you have a good point that we should discuss next week once we get the major content of the strategy done, which is where the committees, the working groups, and open source projects all intercorrelate. And I'll bring someone from the Intersect side who is helping streamline that process. So she should be able to answer all these questions. So.
Yeah, this was basically my second agenda item. So one is to bring in Daniel in place of me. The other one is, right, what is the exact relationship now between the open source committee, then the projects who are actually run, I guess, by, for example, the governance policy we set up. But then there is these, not super clear yet, these working groups, right, which is a bit more removed from individual projects, maybe from the day-to-day, but rather more on the roadmap, kind of general direction of projects at Intersect. And then we have also the technical steering committee in the picture there as well. But I saw a very nice picture also just in one of the decks I got provided when kind of maybe setting up a working group, which was, I think the working group's in the top left was kind of technical steering committee, then open source committee with the policies in the bottom. You might probably know which one I mean, Christian, but kind of reflecting on this just again is maybe, and continuously refining is maybe not a bad idea, especially as we have rotating chairs here with Nick, for example.
Yeah, this is
the one I mean. Yeah, maybe this one.
Yeah, this is the best high-level idea because you have technical steering committee and then the Intersect department that supports them's delivery assurance. Then you have open source committee. I support the open source committee, and we work in parallel and overlap when it comes to the projects on the repos. And then working groups are kind of this community plug-in piece But Marchin's kind of our guinea pig for this too, and the governance policy. So he kind of put both in one focus.
Yeah.
So yeah, more needs to be explored on it, but
Yeah.
I'll bring in the two people associated with the technical steering, and then all committees Intersect related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then let's do this official vote. I mean, that person would be Daniel Firth. Just giving you the name here. You might have seen him in the past. He is involved with the Hydra team, Nix, Haskell, maybe Horizon. Haskell, you might have seen. This was some kind of Haskell Nix alternative. And on GitLab, he's also a strong proponent for GitLab. So you might have some nice opinion coming from that end as well.
Awesome. All in favor, just to record it on the call, raise a hand. Cool. I'll count Marchin's hand up as well. Okay.
Yeah, there is it. Yeah, okay. So that means he's already in the Matrix channel.
Okay.
I will make sure he has the appointments on his calendar as well for next week. Seeing through that he kind of arrives here as well. And yeah, thanks.
If you can drop me his email, I'll get him the Google Drive access and the Slack as well.
Yeah, I will just for now put this one. He definitely is also with IHK right now. So this one is certainly a working one. We might have another one.
Okay. Thank you, George.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Thank you very much for your presence here. It's a long time and for your help. Your speeches were all the time really precious. Now I think we can switch to Bogdan because I don't think Sandeep succeeded to join until now. So please, Bogdan. I stop my sharing.
Yeah, thank you. So until last week, after our productive meeting discussing the first topics for the strategy, let me share the screen. Okay, so remember last week I was showing to you this general template, like a mind map for.
Sorry, Bogdan, we don't see the diagram. We can see ourselves. Yes.
It means that I didn't share the whole screen. Maybe
you shared another one.
This I'm not so used to work with this Meet.
Hi, Daniel. Welcome.
Yeah. Right. So you see, he's very motivated, taking my seat.
Yeah.
That's Daniel, everyone, and yeah.
It's perfect time to join, Daniel. We're about to do a recap.
I will. Yeah, I will remain here a bit for this today, but Dan will basically be informed the proxy from Daniel, and he will be conveying my opinions in the future.
Well, I guess that means you get a double vote just for today.
Democracy alive and well here.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything to vote anymore today, but maybe we can find something.
Okay, good. So now you see the diagram on the screen, right?
If you can make it a little bit bigger, if you can zoom it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So this was something that we discussed last week, just in general terms. And I was starting to populate this template with what we discussed last week. And I will walk you through this thing. So according to what was discuss and decide, this thing will look like this. So we are Cardano, we are core Cardano open source. Our core values are, and all our actions are built around openness, legitimacy, citizenship, quality, sustainability. And for the Cardano community and its contributors, we enable the successful development and evolution of Cardano as a community-led, decentralized open source project. And we envision a future where the Cardano project is strongly led by a thriving community and its open development is not dominated by any single entity. So this is something that we established last week. Then it was a bit clear about the key strategic areas or strategic pillars that are going to be these three. So in the next 1-2 years, we'll be focusing on governance and decision-making, sustainability and funding models, and community engagement and collaboration. Now, it means that we are stepping in after deciding these strategic areas or pillars, as I said before, sustainability and funding, governance and decision-making, and community engagement and collaboration. So everyone agrees these three are aligned with who we are, to whom we are talking to, and so on. All's good?
Yeah, I have some concern, which is mostly just around they don't entirely seem to be aligned with what probably will be the stuff that we actually need to focus on in the sense of enablement. I think it can fit in, but I still have a little bit of, in the sense of, what are we actually needing to focus on? It's things like, yes, the work that started on the security policies, etc., on, how do we start to get people, technical enablement of how things come in. I think it will fit in, but it does feel like there's a bit of an impedance mismatch between what I would immediately assume from those strategic areas and what the actual work that we'll need to do, at least in the short to medium term, is.
So maybe something that we can nailing down with the objectives, and then when we move to actions to capture these things that are already started. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds a positive way forward.
Okay, good. So after setting these strategic areas pillars, we can emerge from them some big objectives, goals. A few things about these objectives, goals. Something that I believe that should be established at the beginning. What is the goal? And how they relate to upstream elements. So the goals should be aligned upstream, aka to the strategic areas. So not having a goal that it's outside of a pillar that was already established. Being constantly prioritized, committed, defined as a smart framework. And ideally, if it's possible, personally, I believe this is a very good practice to establish ownership. So having goals being owned by an individual instead, if it's possible, I don't know, just saying instead of a committee. So one of my advices is to not having proxy ownership. So where the work is done, we set also the ownership. And also not having a group ownership, because in this case, things are not going so well. So if it's possible to set the ownership on the individual level, So having like someone that drives the effort, and it's the single point of contact if it's possible. Just saying. Now, in terms of goals, let me zoom in a bit. So there are proposals. Again, I'm not very super aware about all the initiatives that are already started, what is important and so on. So take them as proposals. So one of them is self-sustainability by, and here we should insert a quarter and a year. Create a self-sustaining economic model for the open source initiative that not only covers operational costs, but also funds growth and innovation. So let's start with discussing this statement, and after that to try to establish a time frame.
Yes,
Please.
Nick, please. Nick raised a hand.
Sebastian was first, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Sebastian, please.
So, my hand is fading. But what is the sustainability of what? Of the open source committee, of Intersect, of the projects in Intersect?
So
The objective, yeah. Also, what is the subject in its statement? That's the question.
So this is something that anyone that it's aligned with this strategy should have in mind, that all should do something that will empower the sustainability of the ecosystem, I would say. I don't know, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Or would it be the Cardano open source project is the best target for it?
So I think before, I mean, I would say that this should be outside of our scope. This is the funding models, that are largely going to be going through, governance actions, etc. do not really refer to, we might need to come up with guidance as to what funding is required, but I don't think that this committee is the right place to come up with an economic model for funding.
But wait a second, Nick. If you remember from last week, when we started to who we are, we came to the conclusion that we are discussing here as core Cardano open source, not especially as the committee itself.
Sure, but the point is, we're advising with regard to that subject on a specific set of topics, which is about the open source development of this. There are other things that pertain to, core Cardano open source that aren't really here, and I would argue that this is one of them. That sort of aligns much more with, that's a separate topic. Is here we can say, as a committee and as as part of the open source strategy, we might need to say things like, look, to enable successful development, we think we will need at least, X paid contributors, and therefore there will need to be a certain amount of funding to ensure that we have those continuity. We can advise on things like that, but I don't think that the competence of this board or the extension of like what we're working at should govern coming up with the economic model. Yeah,
Christian, please.
The other thing too is that the authority to decide suppliers and writing out contracts is solely with the TSC. So I think we can word it as though we provide guidance, can help recommend suppliers for repos if there's something missing, but we can't sign anything on paper.
Sebastian, please.
I think that very well captures also my thoughts, guys. So thank you for bringing this up. And I think the open source committee should rather put in like concerns or advisories to say that it must, any funding or any work kind of being done should not be like done by a single party, and just reasonable decentralization of like who contributes and so on. So I think we should advise and say rather, yeah, okay, cool. We need at least 2 independent maintainers of any piece of critical component in this, right? So it shouldn't be like governed by a single legal entity under contract or so, but it should at least be like from two different sources. So it shouldn't, that the knowledge is not a single point of failure in a single maintainer. So kind of the diversification of maintainers is our guidance, which makes it sustainable, and that the requirement that at least two companies, or at least two teams, or at least two individuals at least need to be able to be funded for each component is our guideline maybe, but how high that would be, or how much funding, or what exact stages, or which programs there is maybe really out of scope.
Adam, thank you very much, Sebastian.
Yeah, and given how kind of out of scope it seems the opinion of this body that sustainability and funding models are, I was wondering if we should swap that out as one of our pillars, so that we could actually focus on something that is kind of within the scope of what we're doing here. And I apologize, Bogdan, for not being here last week or the last 2 weeks while I was on vacation. So I'm getting kind of all caught up with this as well.
Thank you, Adam. Christian, please see in the message. It's the link to the board.
Yeah, and the link to the board, just to not lose all this feedback. Please try to put some comments inside of the board with your point of view, because then I will try to rephrase according to your feedback.
I think to Adam's point, we could probably drop the funding side of it since it's directly tied to money, but we could do sustainability in the sense that we define the path for how the community can become those independent maintainers. And Salona, on a separate call with me, was also talking about that one of our priorities after the strategy is coming up with the how to become a maintainer, because Intersect needs to address that we aren't a founding entity owned company anymore, and that we have diversified people working and maintaining the repos. So I think that, along with like project incubation, things like that, that kind of inherently feeds into the sustainability process.
Okay, so in this case, the sustainability and funding models will be out of these areas.
Just drop the and funding models. You know, we can still focus on like the project sustainability and you know, like the technical sustainability makes lots of sense within the scope of this. Funding models, less so.
So this sustainability is not about money anymore. It's about other aspects.
It's about taking IOG-led work and making it community-led work.
Yeah.
i.e. product working groups, our governance policy, stuff like that.
Okay.
And the other way around too, right? So that essential components, which are going to be like part of the Cardano ecosystem, that those are not single-handedly maintained by that obscure guy, right? Only in order to qualify for being like a core component or a core developer, right? You must not work alone in a silo, maybe, right? This could be like our guidelines to say, if you want to be a core dev, you need to be working together with somebody else to maintain a component.
Yeah, so I think one good replacement for the self-sustainability goal would be to basically, you know, that we should have issues sort of a guidance and policy on basically, you know, what resources are needed to maintain the development of these projects, including, you know, what we need in terms of, you know, requirements on contracts in order to make sure that, you know, contracted parts are open enough, as well as, and maybe I would say even have a second objective that I think one of the things we're going to need to focus on is basically how to, you know, what resources are necessary to just ensure maintenance of, you know, the core product outside any new feature development, but just to basically ensure there's a core of, you know, key maintainers there who can handle problems and who can review, you know, features and things. And that we should definitely, to my mind, be an objective that we need to come up with, is to issue the guidance on that. And that might have in it a requirement that we need funding for that. But then it's the job of the TSC to actually work out where that funding comes from.
Yeah.
Nick, can you insert this proposal in a comment? What you said?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, anything else, or can I move to the next one?
You're good.
Okay, so this one is like establish a sustainable project framework by quarter year, create and enforce a rigorous evaluation system for projects, community driven or not, I don't know. So for projects to ensure an X% project survival rate over 2 years. So this induces a kind of goal in how we look to feasibility of the projects, new projects that are started.
Sebastian, please.
The survival rate thing I find very interesting and reminds me of one library in the Cardano ecosystem right now, which is Lucid. It's the front-end JavaScript bindings to. It's a toolkit where I think the most active maintainer is not in the picture anymore. It has been heavily developed in part of Nami, but this is kind of maybe one case study to see, okay, this was very popular, but I think now it didn't just get updated that much anymore, right? So, and we could maybe look there and to see, okay, this is maybe what happens, and maybe we could backtest any things we try, any strategies, we could backtest them, and would they have worked if this would have been like part of Intersect, motivated in one or the other way.
Christian, please.
I guess the language around the word project framework, I'm wondering if we change it to project guidelines. That way it's not interfering with project autonomy that some teams can have, and we're not overstepping, but we're still providing the best practice. And to your point too, Sebastian, yeah, it's interesting. Because I do think we need to. One thing I wanted to avoid that I saw IOG was out of the 600 repos, there were 2 repos called Delete Repo and Delete Repo 2 that had been there since like 2018. So definitely finding out those kind of things.
Adam, please. Adam.
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing there a little bit about the delete repo. Yeah, I think Lucid is actually a really prime example of a heavily adopted community library that became central to a lot of dApp developers. It was heavily suggested by the Aiken team to use Lucid to do all your front end work, and then the developer, for whatever reason, left and no longer maintained the library. So now we have 3 different teams that are all forking it and creating their own unique forks of said library. So it is a really good case study that we already have to, and so that's what I added as my comment there. But it is a good case study, particularly when we start to look at community-driven development, and kind of speaks back to the importance that Sebastian mentioned a minute ago of having at least 2 people that are responsible for a library. So hopefully if one of them YOLOs off into the sunset, we'll still have one of them around as well. So
thank you very much, Sebastian.
This next thought I just get is now maybe a bit back to also sustainability could also mean like the level of fragmentation, right? To kind of keep to it, right? Not to have like everybody needs to fork because there is not enough collaboration, which is maybe the 3rd pillar, but it kind of fits everywhere there, right? So a concrete objective could mean like keep the level of fragmentation to a minimum or to a reasonable level, and we can maybe give it numbers. So that's covered projects are not actively forked in too many directions, right? But rather we enable collaboration on like a single. It maybe shows healthiness.
Thank you very much, Christian.
I was going to add too, if we want to get specific for a quarter year, why don't we just target Q4 2024? Because honestly, until Intersect gets the funding again in October, it's only going to be here this year. So I think that's our measurable success, basically. And then since we also have the short-term goals where we have to reevaluate in 2 months towards the strategy, we can make more short-term metrics and reevaluate the things and continuous improvement each quarter against the strategy.
Nicholas, please.
Yeah, I feel like one thing we might want to be more clear on here is distinguishing between effectively the core Cardano products and other things being pulled in, because they do have different requirements in terms of so talking about how much something fragments. One thing that we have as a key thing is effectively core Cardano, i.e. the part that makes up the node, cannot fragment. That then you start risking forks on the chain. So we need to have a policy that basically I think we will need two sets of guidance, one for how we maintain and sustain the core products, etc., and the second set for community products and sort of supporting tools where we probably do want to allow some fragmentation to allow experimentation. We want to keep it to a minimum, try to break things in. We also potentially want to allow some of those to die because they might get replaced by better tools, and maybe we want a sort of healthy ecosystem there. So it feels like having two specific objectives for these different areas might be maybe helpful.
Christian?
So things that we could do for sustainable is having a diversified maintainer list, onboarding for contributors to each project that hits two pillars with one. And the third one, especially for like GovTools case, is having a diversified supplier list. They want to export two different functions, the release management to one company and QA to another. That way they take care of each other. And they'd follow a similar path to Core Cardano. Because we also have mandates at Core Cardano. There can be zero downtime, et cetera, et cetera.
Christian, so you said diversified supplier list, and the first one was?
Diversified supplier list, diversified maintainers, and a contributor onboarding path for all projects. And I think that even comes down to having project checklists of certain things that each project should have, must-haves, or your must-haves, nice-to-haves, and recommended. And I got some templates related to that.
So, Christian, what you said relates to one of these four things here, or is something that you propose outside?
It spawns from those, but I kind of want to break, because I think these are more applicable to what we're doing versus what was provided template-wise. And I feel like those are actionable things we could put dates to. Okay. Another one is like having a project incubation process.
Yeah, project incubation, I was thinking on this, but this is a kind of action that is going to be linked to one of the goals, so okay. Yeah.
More of an operational.
Yeah.
I think that's true, but I also think there's probably some merit. Like I think all of these things that Christian's coming up with are very valuable. I don't know whether they are necessarily the goals or actions, but potentially I would say let's capture them anyway, and then see whether we also get a bunch of themes arising from concrete things we know that we are going to have to do, and they then potentially become goals.
I will. Yeah. So if you let me know,
you could remove language from it and make it more simple, and then it becomes a goal, right? By 2020, end of 2024, I want a diversified maintainer list for all projects.
Yeah, this is a goal. To reach a certain level of diversification, it's a good goal. But starting on this way of working, looking to, this is a thing like a drill in searching for a hole. So we have the action, and then we try to see where this action fits to which goal. This is not a really good approach. Usually you have to start thinking what you want to do, where is the point where you want to land, and then decide on the action. If you start with the action and then trying to define the goals out of the actions, usually doesn't work too much.
Okay, I'm gonna write my ideas in there real fast.
Because some of the actions that you are currently doing might be, just saying, might be maybe in a wrong direction. Don't take me wrong, but could be the case. Maybe something might be killed because it's not aligned with the strategic goals. Okay, good. So moving to the next one. By operationalizing the governance framework, we'll reach X% of decisions made with direct community involvement by a certain date. This will ensure transparency, inclusivity, and empower long-term sustainability.
So which
And
government are we
here-
talking about? Yeah.
So here we have this, see here are linked here, these two things. One is the governance that is published on Gitbook, and the other one, it's a document that it's on Google Docs. So somehow relates to these two things that are already defined. Now just saying that we have a goal and we have this way of measuring the success and the time frame.
But could you really measure in percentage of decisions? Because then you would need to have a total, right? Even if we have maybe a defined set of like decided in the framework because we record it somehow, but you can't know all the decisions. So the percentage, it's quite hard to find out.
Yeah, so could be like, yeah.
I like the idea, but maybe it's hard to measure.
Adam, please.
Yeah. So this one's particularly poignant, especially for our, what do you call it? Security committee working group, where we're deciding how much of that gets exposed to the public. It might be difficult, but maybe this seems like something that could maybe work hand in hand with I guess the TSC, to say, because obviously at least somebody at IOG hopefully knows kind of what currently goes into deciding the next quarter or year's worth of development for a core Cardano library. How do we move what percentage of that high level roadmap for that repository into community hands, and at least present the options to them? I imagine we need to curate it down, because otherwise we'll have the entire community saying that we should put 100% of resources towards input endorsers or something else that we're not ready to do. So we need to definitely give them a curated list of what we're capable of delivering within the next year, probably, and then allowing them to make decisions to kind of like work in that transition. And maybe in the next cycle, the community can actually propose a new feature that can then be voted on as a community sort of thing to get into the roadmap. So I think doing it that way, we could actually have a measurable impact and a path to full transition as we go through this interim phase.
Yeah.
Sounds good. What could also help is the level of transparency could be like an objective. So you could say that the number of projects or this percentage of projects has done so many of those of their regular governance meetings in the open, or like maybe there is a monthly touch point. We could say, yeah, 60% of the projects have had at least half the monthly touch points in the public. So that we can basically say, okay, there is a public forum. People can attend if they want. And the mere existence of it is maybe could be an interesting. This is what I used in the past when I needed to come up with an OKR about how well Hydra is run, and we had this theme of sustainable open source development. Right, this is something which was a goal of the project over last year, and one of these key results of kind of hitting this objective was opening up our reporting, opening up our monthly update. Basically, just say, hey, this is what we did this month. This is what we're thinking to do next month, maybe. Rarely we got, hey, I want to have exactly this feature. But more often than not, people just came and saw and felt informed. And that is, I guess, a good thing, which is, it's kind of part of our governance policy right now. So kind of ensure transparency, that there is a public forum for like chats, discussions, or maybe this one touch point. Kind of measuring this is maybe possible.
Okay, as a title, short sentence here, level of transparency for project. Something else to add to this proposal?
Oh, sounds good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me. We can work on the metric to define that later.
Okay, good. So the last proposal from my side, it's something like, let me zoom in a bit. Expand the Cardano community by date, meaning achieve an X% growth in the global Cardano community and double, or whatever, double, this double could be something else. Active contributors by the end of a year, utilizing targeted actions and supportive initiatives. We want to grow a broader and more dynamic contributor base. I know that is not very well formulated, but you got the general idea.
I like it, but it's like a 2-year goal because it's the biggest and vicious one.
Could be,
And
could be
instead
2
of
years.
double, I just like the word increase because what we could do is just take a measurement now, and then anything that's better than that is our goal. So.
Adam, please.
Yeah, that was the meat and potatoes of my comment as well. I dislike like a hard and fast rule that we must double the number of.
No, don't take it. Let's say X% increase or something like this.
Right, but again, like that's my problem. Is right now canonizing that we must increase the number. What if there are no worthy candidates, but it's canonized as a goal of this body that we must increase the number? That means that we have to go and find some random party that probably wasn't even interested in developing Cardano before and give them money rather than pay core contributors because, oh, well, we had to make the KPIs, ergo we had to find a new development house. Therefore, we spun off Sebastian from Dan, and now they're two different companies. We have to do a lot of like tricky games just to hit a vanity metric. So I am leery of canonizing that a fixed increase in number of developers, especially so early in the process. Right now, it's more important that there is any diversity of core development over a fixed or fixed number of increase.
Thank you, Adam. Christian?
What we could do then is measure the increase the number of contributions from how they currently are, or maybe a decrease from founding entity contributions is the metric, or something like that number, something that shows that there's a diversity in contributions being made. I don't know the exact way to put that. And then I had another goal that goes to governance and decision making I was proposing, and I kept it very open-ended because we can decide as we go on. But by the end of this year, have 5 open source policies in place. I thought that'd be a good fit for the committee. And I think we already have a second one about to go, and then the project incubation will be a third. So we can think of 2 more.
Christian, can you put this this proposal?
Yeah, it's in the
somewhere?
comment on the second one.
Oh, okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick.
I think I agree with what Adam and Christian said. Like, I think active contributor is a bad metric. That could just be achieved by doubling the funding for IOG internal teams. I think, honestly, but the other thing is, I think we should have goals that we can fail at, and that's actually quite a relevant thing to have. So I think, say, setting a goal that, to try to have, one regular or semi-regular external, i.e. non-funded contributor to each of the core Cardano projects by end of the year is not too ambitious. It's saying, we just want to find one person who's interested in that. But it's also relevant to set a goal that, we could quite possibly fail at, because, say, if we fail at that by the end of the year, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and say, well, look, the longer term objectives, we're not seeing a path to them. How do we really think about this? So I think it would be good to have something slightly ambitious there that acts as a measure of, do we think our longer term plans are actually going to work here?
Christian?
I just wanted to highlight too that with the project support office, the Bitergia analytics tool, they have a way of defining contributions by casual, core, or let me get it to you. Your casual, your regular, and your core contributors. So we could do a measurement on that for a baseline and then try to pick a number that's higher than that. So we can distinguish on that level. And there is there's another way of doing it too, where this came from when InterSource was a thing at IOG, but increasing the merge ratio on projects. Open source experts said the good ratio is anywhere between 80 to 90, and then you have the 10 to 20% merge ratio. That way you're accepting code, but you're not just accepting anything. And maybe there's a way we could do a measurement like that.
Yeah, I think we might need to tune the percentages there, just because of what, well, it also depends on the contributions.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bogdan.
I don't know. So, and it was another one that came actually from Michael as a comment in the initial document, was referring to the cycle time or something similar. If you think that the cycle time can be transformed in a goal, if you think that it's not too granular or too action oriented, I don't know, just is here as a candidate.
Yeah,
I think
not bad. In other words, the time for basically a PR to go through stages.
Yeah, production, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And to that too, we could also work on time to resolution for sustainability on issues.
Yeah. They feel like, I would say, both time to resolution and cycle time feel like metrics that will answer to, a question that will answer to the goal of basically sustainability of the core projects. I think they're more metrics that we might want to study than goals in themselves.
Yeah.
Apart from anything else, because I don't know what, they should be. The answer to some issues, resolution might be in the years, because someone will raise an issue that requires original research to go and do, and then that comes through. We may have PRs open that implement vast changing features, and we expect them to take a long time. Whereas so having them as metrics that we track, I think, is good, but I wouldn't set them as goals right now.
Okay.
Bogdan?
I don't know. More or less, that's all from my side. So these were the proposals. as a next step for me will be to take the feedback that you sent in the comments and trying to rephrase or coming with a next iteration for these goals. I don't know, Christian, what do you think? Because we are a bit under the pressure of time. I think that the final version should be done by the end of this month. And also, I feel like we need another session to discuss on the new proposal.
Yeah. I'll update the technical working group time on Wednesday to include everyone, whoever can make it. And then me and you, Bogdan, can work Monday, Tuesday to define these and try to get some actions as proposals. Because I think if we at least conclude the action steps, we can work after the ratification to get metrics and things like that. But I think having the strategy stating your purpose and how you're going to act to it comprises the essential skeleton of the strategy, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, good. So that's all from my side.
So, means if you have something else to discuss today, please.
I was going to add homework for everyone is eat that Miro alive and add comments, feedback, even think about actions to propose, all before Wednesday. So this is your chance to jump in there, Dan.
With pleasure.
Okay. Thank you very much. If nothing else remains to discuss.
I have a small announcement that I'll be off next week, so probably see you in 2 weeks.
Please, Marcy.
I will also be away next Friday. I mean, I guess lots of people will be away next Friday. It's a holiday in many places. So
should we, in that case, move the call to Thursday just so we can have a ratification vote with everyone versus it just being me and George and Bogdan saying yay?
I'm also off Thursday, but that might be sensible. Yeah.
Next Thursday is an interesting date, right? It's, isn't the last supper in English? What's it called? Like,
Yes.
Is it appropriate?
Yeah, so you can meet and then just vote before Judas goes out.
Yeah. Irony. Okay, I'll do those actions then. And welcome, Daniel. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So,
All right, thank you all. Have a good
thank you
weekend
very
then.
much. Thank you very much once again, Sebastian. Welcome, Dan. Have a great weekend.